If you've been around for a while, then you know how much I care about financial freedom for all. One thing that often gets in the way of that is debt. That's why I'm happy to announce that I've partnered with an amazing organization called Juno. Juno helps you get lower interest rates by using the power of group negotiation. It is a completely free resource that you can use to secure lower interest rates on new and existing student loans. Head to the link in the episode show notes to find out more. This is the Dreamers Podcast, episode 52. Today is January 11th, 2022. So every year I sit down and I write down my annual goals in my full focus planner, and you have to write down the goals by quarter. I hit about 80% of my goals for the year. And the ones that I missed, oh boy, I missed them by a lot. But I don't feel bad about it because I don't want my goals to be realistic to where I am right now. I want them to be stretch goals so that even though I don't hit all of them, I seriously push myself so I can be much further along than if I had set quote unquote more realistic goals.
Hello world, welcome to the Dreamers Podcast. I am Stephanie Anne-Lyse, also known as Anne-Lyse Wealth. I am a financial coach and an author. I self-published my first book, Dream of Legacy, a guide to help dreamers reach financial independence and build generational wealth. In this podcast, I'll have conversations with experts and thought leaders who dare to follow their dreams. You'll hear about their journey and their money stories. I hope it inspires you, dreamers out there, to live life on your own terms.
Come on, dreamers, let's change the world!
This podcast is brought to you by Dream of Legacy. Check out dreamoflegacy.com for resources to assist you on your journey to financial independence. Before we get into today's episode, please take a couple minutes to go into Apple Podcasts if you're listening from an Apple device to rate and review the podcast. If you appreciate the free resources that are provided in this podcast, then the best way to let me know is to do just that. Reviews help the podcast be more visible, and it helps other dreamers discover the podcast. So thank you. I appreciate you. And now let's get back to today's episode. Hello, welcome to the Dreamers Podcast. I'm your host, Anne-Lyse Wealth, and I am so happy that you're here with me today for the first new episode of the year 2022. Happy New Year. I hope you had an amazing end of the year and that you were able to spend time with loved ones. My family spent the holidays in LA. We were looking for warmer weather. Didn't realize that it was going to be still pretty cold in LA this season. But overall, we had nice weather, so not going to complain here. It was good to change scenery, spend some time at the beach. Can you believe that it's 2022 though? The other day, my daughter asked me if next year we would have flying cars and things of that nature. And it made me think about the fact that we were supposed to have flying cars probably like 10 years ago. Anyways, 2022 is here. May it be the best year of your life. So I thought for a first episode, what better way to start than to talk about goals, right? I usually set my goals for the following year in Q4. And before doing that, I take the time to review the prior year goals and how well I did. I use a full focus planner. I love those planners. They are good for 3 months, and every 3 months you get a new one. When I was reviewing my goals for 2021, one thing I realized is that I did really well with my first and second quarter goals. And then the last 2 quarters of the year, I did okay. But there's a few goals that I missed. And it made me think about this book that I read last year called The 12-Week Year. The book makes the argument that planning too far into the future makes you lose your focus. So it's good to look at the year as a 3-month year, and every 3 months you have a new year. So every year I sit down and I write down my annual goals in my full focus planner, and you have to write down the goals by quarter. I hit about 80% of my goals for the year. And the ones that I missed, oh boy, I missed them by a lot. But I don't feel bad about it because I don't want my goals to be realistic to where I am right now. I want them to be stretch goals so that even though I don't hit all of them, I seriously push myself so I can be much further along than if I had set quote unquote more realistic goals. So for anyone who's still working on their goals, here is my process. As I mentioned, I use a quarterly system. So at the end of every quarter, I compare my achievements or where I am to the goals that I had set. But also starting in November, I usually go back to my first planner of the year and look at the annual goals and see how well I did. And I start a few weeks long process to really start digging into what worked, what didn't work, and why it didn't work. So that by the end of the year, I can sit down and set my goals for the following year. So in 2021, November, I started looking at the goals that I had set for 2021. One of the goals that I had in 2021 that I did not complete was design a course. So that's definitely postponed. But one of the goals that I'm so glad I hit was I had the goal to read 24 books, and I actually read 25 books. And so I had the idea that in 2022, I want to read 36 books. So let's see how that goes. But anyways, the point is to really take the time to review your goals. And if you hit 100% of the goals that you set, then you probably want to set bigger goals. And so after reviewing how I did the prior year, I love to sit down and work on my vision board for the next 5 years. And so I keep a vision board on my phone of the things that I want to do. It doesn't include everything, but it's for the big things, right? And then I use that to come up with my goals for the year. For each category, which is personal, business, family, and finances, I like to set 2 to 3 goals. And I use my full focus planner to spread them out across quarters. Last year was my full year in business, but I was determined to continue to invest in the stock market. And so I was able to max out my IRA, our health savings accounts, in addition to my husband's 401k at work. We contributed to the kids' 529, which is college savings fund, contributed to a brokerage account, and I was able to open a solo 401k as a business owner. And though the limit in 2022 will be $58,000, I did not contribute anywhere close to that. But that's one of my financial goals in 2022. I want to be able to do all the things that we did last year, as well as max out my solo 401k, contributing $58,000, which will lower my business taxes, and the earnings will grow free until retirement when it will be taxed. That's definitely a stretch goal. Don't ask me how I'm going to do it because I'm still figuring it out, but that's a goal that I have in 2022. I would like to purchase another real estate property in 2022 as well. I'm not going to share all of my goals, but those are some of the big ones. I have to keep in mind, though, that 2022 is going to be a year where we probably spend a little more than usual. Our 10-year anniversary is coming up, and would love to spend it somewhere really nice. And that's going to cost a pretty penny, but we've been planning for it, and I just can't wait to make it happen this year. I would like to visit a new African country this year. I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but I launched my communications agency at the end of last year, and I would like to really work on having systems in place so I can go and get more clients. One of the goals that I have for the agency this year, I would love to ghostwrite 3 books this year. I want to continue to share stories of people who overcame adversity to build wealth. I want to keep the Black Wealth O'Clock series going. I don't want to bore you with all of my goals, but I just wanted to share the process or my process with you guys since we are starting the new year and it's the perfect time to go after what it is that you want. And I hope that me sharing my process can help you. And I would love to hear about your goals. What are some of the things that you're working towards this year? I would love to know. But just a recap of my process. Step number 1, I review how I did in the current year and compare it to the goals that I had set the year before. Step number 2, I take the time to figure out what worked and what didn't work and why it didn't work. Step number 3, I create a vision board for the next 5 years. What do I want my life to look like? And then I work from that to create my goals for the next 4 quarters of the year. It is very easy to be overwhelmed by your goals. That's why personally, I like to break my goals down into 4 categories: personal, finances, business, and family. And in each category, I will have 2 to 3 goals, and then I will spread them out over the entire year. Just have to make sure that those goals are specific, measurable, and that you set a deadline for those goals. And look at them throughout the year. Keep those goals in your face so that you stay on track. And at the end of every quarter, see how you're doing. Adjust if necessary. I hope this was helpful, but that's in a nutshell my process. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Dreamers Podcast. You can find the episode show notes and all of the links mentioned at dreamoflegacy.com. If you liked today's episode, here's what you can do to support me and help more dreamers discover the podcast. Follow the podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Rate and review the podcast to help the podcast gain more visibility. Share the podcast with your family, friends, and coworkers. And if you really enjoyed today's episode, please take a second to tag me at thedreamers.podcast on Instagram and let me know what you liked about today's episode. All right, dreamers, that's it for today. I will see you back here next week for another episode of the Dreamers Podcast.
Okay, dreamers, time to build this legacy.
This podcast is for general information purposes only. It is not intended to provide any tax, legal, financial planning, insurance, accounting, investment, or any other kind of professional advice or services. Please consult with an appropriate tax, financial, or legal professional to receive appropriate advice based on your situation.
Sunday, Skincare Day, is one of the ways I keep my sanity in these crazy times. Jumino is an all-natural, Black-owned skincare brand carefully handcrafted by parents who could not find the proper care solutions to address their family skin problems. All Jumino products are made of organic and high-quality ingredients, meticulously chosen to give your skin the smooth results and the glow it deserves.